Richard Pryor, born on December 1, 1940, in Peoria, Illinois, was an iconic American comedian, actor, and writer. Known for his unflinching honesty and boundary-pushing comedy, Pryor became one of the most influential figures in the entertainment industry. His raw, unfiltered humor challenged societal norms and made him a trailblazer in both stand-up comedy and film. His life, marked by struggles with addiction, personal tragedy, and moments of redemption, mirrored the chaotic and often painful material he would bring to the stage. Early life and upbringing. Pryor was born to Ada, née Mosley, a waitress, and Leroy Buck Pryor, a boxer. His parents had a tumultuous relationship, and his father, who struggled with alcoholism, was often absent. Pryor's mother, Ada, took up with a series of men who were also abusive, leaving Pryor to endure an unstable and often dangerous childhood. He spent much of his early years in his grandmother's home in Peoria, Illinois, and was raised in an environment filled with emotional turmoil and physical violence. Pryor's life in Peoria was marked by a sense of detachment and confusion. He witnessed frequent domestic violence, and, by the age of 6, was sexually abused by a family member. These experiences had a profound effect on his development and influenced the themes of abuse, race, and trauma in his later comedy. In a 1979 interview with Playboy, Pryor revealed that his traumatic upbringing led to struggles with depression and self-worth that he would fight throughout his life. The journey to comedy. Despite these hardships, Pryor began to show an interest in performing during his early teens. After attending a Catholic school, he dropped out at the age of 14, but by the time he was 20, Pryor had moved to New York City to pursue a career in comedy. He started performing in small clubs, often imitating other comedians before developing his own style. His early material was heavily influenced by the work of other comedians like Lenny Bruce, but as he honed his voice, Pryor began to make his comedy more personal, incorporating his own life experiences. In 1963, Pryor moved to Hollywood, where he began to write for TV and perform on the stand-up circuit. He initially struggled to find his voice, but his persistence paid off when he began performing at larger clubs and eventually made his first appearance on The Ed Sullivan Show. At the time, his comedy was more conventional, catering to a mainstream, often white audience, but Pryor was quickly becoming dissatisfied with his material. Breaking boundaries. Pryor's comedic breakthrough came when he realized that he could draw on his own painful, often dark experiences to create comedy. His style evolved to include sharp social commentary on race, politics, relationships, and personal pain. He was one of the first comedians to truly integrate the African American experience into his comedy, becoming a voice for Black Americans and challenging racial stereotypes that were common in the entertainment industry. By the early 1970s, Pryor had achieved a breakthrough with his stand-up comedy albums, including That Nigger's Crazy, 1974, and Is It Something I Said? 1975. These records were filled with profane, taboo-breaking material, and they garnered him both critical acclaim and controversy. Pryor's boldness in addressing race and racism in America was unprecedented at the time. His infamous use of racial slurs and blunt observations on race relations were cathartic for many listeners but also alienated some audiences. Nevertheless, Pryor's impact was undeniable. He reached new heights with his comedy specials, particularly Richard Pryor, Live in Concert, 1979, widely regarded as one of the greatest stand-up comedy performances ever captured on film. The special showcased Pryor's fearless exploration of human vulnerability, his ability to laugh at the worst aspects of his life, and his unique talent for using humor as a way to discuss serious societal issues. Personal struggles. Despite his professional success, Pryor's personal life was fraught with challenges. He struggled with drug addiction, particularly to cocaine, which he openly discussed in his routines. His battles with addiction were so severe that they almost ended his career on several occasions. In 1980, while high on drugs, Pryor famously set himself on fire during an incident that would become infamous in his life story. Pryor later claimed that he had been attempting to commit suicide after years of personal turmoil, but he ultimately survived and used the experience as material for his comedy. His marriages were also tumultuous. Pryor was married 7 times to 5 different women, with whom he had numerous children. His relationships were often marred by infidelities and intense emotional turbulence. Despite the chaos, Pryor's humor allowed him to address these painful experiences, using them to connect with audiences who saw him as both flawed and relatable. The 1980s and film career. In the 1980s, Richard Pryor expanded his career into acting, starring in films like Silver Streak, 1976, The Toy, 1982, Brewster's Millions, 1985, and See No Evil, Hear No Evil, 1989, where he demonstrated his range as both a comedian and an actor. Pryor's chemistry with other actors, including Gene Wilder, became legendary in films like Stir Crazy, 1980, which was a major commercial success. Pryor also worked as a writer and producer on several television shows. In 1986, he produced and starred in The Richard Pryor Show, which, though short-lived, featured sketches that pushed the boundaries of what was acceptable on TV at the time. Legacy and final years. Pryor's health began to decline in the late 1980s and early 1990s. In 1991, he was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, a debilitating disease that gradually left him confined to a wheelchair. Despite his physical decline, Pryor continued to work in the entertainment industry, making occasional public appearances and acting in the 1992 film Critical Condition. Richard Pryor passed away on December 10, 2005, at the age of 65 from a heart attack. His death was mourned by fans, comedians, and fellow entertainers, all of whom recognized his profound impact on the world of comedy and beyond. Pryor's legacy endures. His groundbreaking approach to comedy, the way he brought authenticity and vulnerability into the spotlight, and his ability to make people laugh at the most painful aspects of life continues to influence comedians today. His work not only opened the doors for future generations of black comedians but also helped to change the way comedy is written and performed. Richard Pryor is remembered as a genius, a man who wasn't afraid to challenge the status quo, and a storyteller whose humor transcended race, class, and culture.
Thank you for watching. Please subscribe our channel.